Yo, YouTube, what's good? It's your boy, Chris, coming at you from SonicHub again with another Sonic review. And today, we're going to be talking about a game that out of nowhere became extremely controversial. I don't know how Sega or Blind Squirrel or whoever is responsible for this let this happen, but Sonic Colors Ultimate is officially a controversial game, so we're going to get right into that today. Leading up to this game, there were some pre-release copies that were given out to some streamers and content creators, and boy, they really were letting this game have it. It was assumed that there was going to be a day one patch, which there was, that fixed everything up, but it still really didn't fix any of the issues that most people have, as the day one copies that were shipped out to people were not the best. But yeah, you guys see that reaction, and honestly, it's kind of a shame that this game, which is universally praised in my opinion, became a controversial game. This is honestly insane, but without further ado, we're going to get into the review. And to be fair, my personal experience with the game was actually very good. The platform in which most people were having issues with seemed to be the Nintendo Switch, which, obviously makes sense because the game's not even in 60 FPS. It's clearly the worst version out of all of them. But some people were even having issues on the Xbox and PS5 version, so that goes to show that maybe that this game really wasn't ready to be released. I played this game on the PC, which I think goes to show maybe you guys should just grow up and stop playing Xbox, stop playing PS5. I like Nintendo Switch, but just grow up and get a PC. It's literally the best way to play video games, but nah, I'm just kidding. Please don't spam me with hate. I know all consoles are good. I don't want any issues. Come on, no smoke, leave me alone. But without further ado, let's get into why you're here. Is this game any good? Is it worth your money? Well, let's take a deeper dive and figure out if that's the case. So Sonic Colors Ultimate was originally revealed late in May of 2021 during Sonic Central. It came as no surprise though, because there were leaks a few months prior when a European game studio leaked out that the game was going to be released. At the time, this kind of broke the internet because everyone was talking about Adventure 1 and Adventure 2 remakes, and this really kind of threw a wrench in all of that. But as everyone is aware, Sonic Colors Ultimate is the game that we got a remaster of. Hopefully Adventure 1 and 2 remakes will come in the future, but we'll save that for a later video. And it does make a lot of sense that they went in this direction. After the Sonic movie success, Yuji Naka did say that he wanted to bring new fans into the IP, and he felt like Sonic Colors Ultimate was the greatest way to do that. And it does make a lot of sense. This game was very inoffensive, and it was really well received at the time. We haven't seen this game released in over 10 years, so it definitely makes sense that they kind of went back to this. The story takes place in space in an interstellar amusement park built by Dr. Eggman, in which he claims that he is not evil anymore and he's just doing this out of the goodness of his heart. Sonic and Tails investigate and they break in. After running around the park for a little bit, it turns out that there's an enslaved alien race called Wisp that have been captured by Dr. Eggman, and they're being used to power the park and I guess some of the inventions and planets or whatever. I'm not really sure. The story really isn't that much, it's very minimal, which some could argue is a good thing. I'm not really sure if I agree with that, but yeah. They race across all of the 6 planets, they eventually defeat all of Eggman's robots, they free a bunch of Wisps, and they think that the battle is over. And then Eggman kind of just goes psycho-genocidal and tries to destroy the entire park. He uses the Wisp, and then Sonic kind of just defeats him. He runs down the terminal velocity level, and then that's kind of how it ends. But yeah, the story really isn't much. It's very minimal, and I think that's what the series kind of needed at the time. I'm not really a fan of the writing because I love the Dark Age games like Sonic Unleashed, Sonic 06, SA2, but I feel like at the time this probably was the direction that they needed to go into. It has kind of this Saturday morning cartoon vibe to it, which, isn't bad because this game is made for children technically, but I really feel like the writers did kind of butcher the characters of Sonic and Tails because it definitely wasn't true to what they always were, no matter what the interpretation or the tone of the game was. With that being said though, you could also make the case that this really was what the classics were. When the games first came out, it was basically just Sonic running around and trying to free the animals enslaved by Eggman. I don't really see how this is much different because there really wasn't much plot to those games either. Those games really focus on just the gameplay and the gameplay only, and you could probably make the case that this game really tried to emulate that formula as well. And honestly, the story wasn't that offensive. Sure, it didn't take itself seriously and was kind of cheesy and corny with the writing, but it seemed like the story didn't really get in the way of a good game, and if you didn't like the cutscenes, you could really just skip them and not really miss out much on what's going on with the plot. Overall, it doesn't really ruin the game for me. I was very critical of it at first, but really, it doesn't get in the way too much. I really do hope they go in a different direction, but we'll see. It seems like they tried with Forces, so maybe with Rangers they will go in a more serious direction. Honestly though, like I said, I do like a more serious Sonic story because he's such a great character, and I really grew up with, that interpretation of him in SA1, SA2, Unleashed, etc. But at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. A lot of games preceding this game did not receive well, and this game received very well by critics. So that's really the most important thing to a game company, obviously. I really don't think that Sega cares about what some negative fan on Twitter has to say, making his 100th hot take of the day about how Sonic sucks and how I'll never play it again, but he still ends up buying every copy. I find it hard to believe that they actually care about that. But the last thing I will say about the story is it did kick off the meta era, which did follow a lot of games that I didn't like, and honestly fans didn't like either, and critics alike. So I'm hoping this isn't the direction that they go with in the future, but I do understand that at the time, this is the game that we needed, and even as a port, this makes a lot of sense for them to release. Now let's get into the gameplay, where I think the game really shines. Like I said before, this is a return to gameplay being the main focus of the game and not as much a story, where it takes a little bit of a step back. In these levels, you have the boost, which is returned from Sonic Unleashed daytime levels, which was really well received. There is only one gameplay style, and that is modern Sonic running through the stage as fast as possible, trying to do tricks, get the highest score, collect rings, and even look for unlockables like the red rings and the park tokens and things of that nature. They call this a 3D Sonic title, but I would even argue that it's more 2D than 3D. There's a mixture between 2D and 3D platforming that goes on throughout the levels, and for the most part, you will be jumping around in 2D. I actually don't hate the 2D, and this is kind of a hot take. I actually think that they do the 2D better than Generations does in this game, because it feels just a little bit less forced and clunky. Like, I feel like in Generations, it really just does not flow well at all with the levels. But don't get me wrong, the 2D does kind of feel like at times that it's just drawing out the levels and kind of dragging it on a little bit, and can feel a little bit clunky at times, which I will not disagree with. There's a new ability where you can double jump, which really does shine in the 2D sections and allows you to really get the most precise platforming possible. And believe it or not, there are actually some 3D sections in this game. It brings back the boost formula, but I feel like it actually doesn't do it as well as Unleashed, but it's still pretty good. There's a lot of spectacle, you're going fast, the visuals look great, there's some fun platforming, but yeah, overall, it's just a 3D boost. That's what it is. My main complaint and why I think it's not as good as Unleashed is I feel like they're very stingy with the boost, and you almost have to use it a little bit more strategically. I almost prefer to spam it and just go really fast and just have this blazing sense of speed, which this game does have a little bit, but definitely not as much as Unleashed. And this game does have a lot of 2D platforming, so it probably makes sense as to why you can't boost as much in this game. But honestly, it is one thing that does really bother me, that you don't have as much speed as a game like Unleashed. One of the newer features though in the 3D sections primarily is the perfect homing attack, which is something that does actually refill your boost meter and is very satisfying to do. This adds another element of skill, which I really can't complain about. Anything that challenges the player to be better at the game and also rewards them is something that I think is always positive. Pretty much all of Sonic's standard moveset from the Unleashed daytime levels have returned, except the big change being that the A button has now been mapped to the homing attack instead of the X button for Xbox. The real major difference between these two games is the addition of the Wisps, which are the newest gimmick that were introduced into this game. And the Wisps are really fun in this game. Keyword, in this game. I don't know why they've returned so many times throughout the years, but anyways, when touching them, Sonic gets a new power-up that's specific to each color of the wisp, and you're primarily going to be using them in the 2D sections mainly. So yeah, in Colors Ultimate, the boost, Drill, Laser, Rocket, Spike, Cube, and Frenzy all return, but the newest addition is the Jade Wisp. I actually love the Jade Wisp. It's really fun to play as, and you kind of just float around as like a little ghost, and you can go like from platform to platform. It's not really much, but honestly, I do love it, even though it is kind of used sparingly throughout the game. It opens up new paths, and also lets you go through walls, which is always pretty cool. And it allows you to get red rings and things like that, and it's just pretty cool to use. I just wish they did a little bit more with it. But yeah, overall, the Wisps are very fun, and they do make the 2D platforming shine. It's a fun little gimmick that just adds a little bit of spice to the levels. The coolest part about the Wisp though is that in order to really complete this game 100%, you have to beat it, and then you have to return to the levels where you didn't have the Wisp unlocked, and then you have to go back so you can get the red rings, because the Wisp allow for paths that you didn't have originally. I love this. I think this is amazing that the game encourages replayability for people who want 100% it, because let's face it, this is only like a 2-hour game. After you beat it, there's not much else to do, unless you're someone that likes to go back into the levels and replay them to get 100% completion. The Wisp will unlock new paths for you so you can go back and find new ways to beat these levels. So I really can't fault this game for that. I think it's awesome, and I think the Wisps are really good. As far as future game goes, I never want to see a Wisp again, unless it's maybe like a racing game like Team Sonic Racing, but please, leave these things the hell out of of the new games. The boss fights in this game are pretty good too. None of them are different from Sonic Colors, which is probably a good thing because I really did like all of them. You have the one where you run around in a loop-de-loop, you have the other one where you kind of complete a level, you have the one where you fight the spaceship, and last but not least, you have the Eggman final boss in Terminal Velocity. This is definitely one of my favorite boss fights and honestly one of the best in the entire series. If you haven't beaten this game, make sure that you do because the boss fight is very epic. The loop-de-loop ones aren't very challenging, but the other ones definitely have plenty of challenge. I died multiple times fighting the spaceship, and even the last Eggman boss gave me some trouble as well. So what exactly is new in this game? What makes this game Sonic Colors Ultimate as opposed to just regular old Sonic Colors? Do these changes make this game worth buying? This is where we're really going to address some of the issues as well, so buckle up. The first new feature that caused an uproar on Twitter was the Tail Save feature. This is brand new, and I was a little turned off by the fact that it's not optional at first, but after playing the game, I realized that the Twitter backlash to this feature was way overblown. I really don't see the issue with it, and I like how it adds some continuity to the game. Tails is in every cutscene with Sonic, so it's cool that they bring him into the actual levels, so it feels more in line with what's happening in the story. Scattered throughout the levels, you can collect a Tails Save, and if Sonic dies, Tails catches him and brings him back to where he left off. I think it's a good feature to help out newer players who may have had a frustrating death, and it's also very inoffensive, so my only real criticism is that it replaces the life system and isn't optional. It's definitely not a reason to boycott the game, and it really doesn't get in the way of anything, so I don't really have too much of an issue with this. The next feature is the all-new Rival Rush mode. This mode is extremely fun, and after collecting 15 red rings in a planet, you unlock the Rival Rush mode, where you will race an AI Metal Sonic. I had so much fun with this, and it really feels like a solid challenge. This mode is fast-paced, and you will lose to Metal Sonic on the first try, guaranteed. But this helps you get so much better at a stage, and it adds some stakes as well. I wish they had built upon this though, because there really is only a total of 6 Rival Rush stages. Imagine if every single level had a Rival Rush challenge. That would instantly add so much more replayability, and I don't see why this couldn't have been done either. In order to 100% this game, you will need to go back to the levels to collect the red ring so you can complete these races. This is a welcome feature, and like I said before, they could have done a lot more with this, but maybe I'm just complaining though, because it wasn't even in the original. Another new addition is the park tokens, which is scattered throughout all of the levels, which allows you to go back and unlock customizations for Sonic. I want to say that this is the first time that you're able to actually customize Sonic's shoes and gloves and his boost aura and things like that, so this is new, and I actually really like this a lot. Once again, I am going to be a little bit nitpicky here, because I feel like there's still a lot more that they could have done with this. For starters, you could have added more colors, and I don't see why not. Maybe you could bring back old models for Sonic, or maybe even bring in new playable characters. But yeah, it's a nice feature. It's new. You don't need to do it. It's optional, but it's pretty cool to go back and unlock new things for Sonic, and some of them actually do look really cool. The next thing they added was remixes to all of the old tracks. This is pretty cool. I mean, it shows that they put some love and passion into this project. In my opinion though, I do think the original soundtrack is much better, and I feel like they probably should have at least toggled an option where you can have the old soundtrack as opposed to the new one. But once again, a very minor complaint, and I can always appreciate the fact that they went the extra mile and tried to freshen up the experience a little bit. And one of the new things they added to the game, which is very controversial, is the updated visuals for the game. Now, this has really been what has been extremely divisive for the Sonic community on Twitter. Look, this is a Wii game from 2010, so I feel like, in my opinion, anytime you add upscaled graphics with 4K and 60 FPS, it's automatically going to look better. I don't really care what anyone says. They do use a lot of bloom, which a lot of new games are going in that direction, and I can agree with that. Sometimes the bloom does look a little cheesy, and in Tropical Resort, it does look kind of bad. I will give you that. I also hate how the boost has this like motion blur, because it really is just like very hard to look at. I don't really like it on the model, but if you look at some of the environments, like look at Sweet Mountain. These updated visuals make this zone look really good. I think the lighting is perfect, the environments look great, and honestly, the food is making me hungry just by looking at it. Some people have complained about Tropical Resort as well, but I still think it looks pretty good. I mean, it's in space, it's darker than what some people said it was originally, but who cares? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and personally, my eyes think that this game does look better. Like, even look at Planet Wisp. Planet Wisp definitely looks way better in this game. But then again, I'm not a game critic, and I don't really have a good eye for like little lighting details and things that are off. So you guys tell me, I want to know what you guys think about that. The visuals are charming. I think they look good, and I don't think they hurt the game in any way, shape, or form. After all, you're playing a game with a cartoon talking hedgehog. You're not really here for the graphics or the more realistic elements of it. But let's get to the elephant elephant in the room. One of the biggest issues and main concerns with this game was the glitches that came out in the pre-release version and even in the day one version that was released to people after a patch was dropped. I'm of the mindset, when I see like a little glitch that kind of throws you off the map or something like that, or just something stupid happens, I really don't think it hurts the game, and I think it's kind of fun to find those. Where it really bothers me though is when the game is broken. For example, some people on the PlayStation 4 and 5 have experienced corruption of their save files. Imagine getting 175 out of the 180 red rings and you're about to 100% the game and your save file just completely corrupts and you have to start all the way from the beginning. To me, that is just completely unacceptable and honestly a disgrace. I've also seen a lot of issues with the game crashing as well. My first playthrough, I didn't have any issues with crashing, but on my second playthrough, I did have the game crash twice while I was trying to record footage. To me, it doesn't make sense. How do you mess up this game? This is a Wii game from 2010. There's not really much that you have to do to make this game work on modern platforms. I don't know if the game was rushed or it was released too early, but it just doesn't make any sense, and I feel like this is totally unacceptable for a game studio to release a game in this form. Personally, like I said before, I had a good experience with this game. I really had no issues, but I've seen a lot of people have issues with the visuals on the Switch where there's like seizure warnings and things of that nature. Is just really unacceptable. This really cannot happen, and I hope going forward that something like this is never allowed to happen again. I don't know how little fan projects are able to put out much better products than high budget gaming studios. It completely baffles me, and I feel like this is going to really hurt Sonic's reputation once again. We all know that the game is going to get patched and it's going to get fixed and it's going to be fine. Sonic Colors is a great game. The problem was day one on Twitter, this game was trending and all for the wrong reasons. Casuals who don't even like Sonic or maybe ragged on Sonic in the past are going to see that and they're just going to think it's business as usual for Sega. But that's the end of my little rant. And at the end of the day, I did have a good experience with this game, but I do see a lot of people complaining and I do feel for them. Just because I had a good experience doesn't mean that everyone else did, but just because they had a bad experience doesn't mean that the game is bad itself. So let me give you guys my final thoughts on this game. I'm going to go ahead and give this game an 8 out of 10. This is primarily because I had a great experience with this game. I didn't run into any issues other than a crash at the end of my first playthrough and a couple throughout my second, but other than that, I love the new features that were added to this game. I love the upscaled graphics, the 4K, the 60 FPS, all of the new unlockables and customizations, and honestly, this is just a really good Sonic game. At the time, it was one of the best received 3D Sonic games, and it was really a return to Sonic being relevant again. It was a nice little treat for the 30th anniversary, and I can't complain that we got a new game because we haven't gotten one since Sonic Forces, or I guess Team Sonic Racing if you consider that a new game. I really did have a lot of fun with this game, so I definitely recommend it, and I hope you do play it and there's no issues for you. But what are your thoughts? I want to know what you guys think about this game and what your thoughts are about some of the issues that this game had. Did you have any issues? Did you have a good experience? Please let me know down below in the comments. But that's the end of this video. Make sure you guys join my Discord server, which I just made, and it's really popping off. We're having a lot of fun in there, and there's a really cool community. Also, make sure to check out my Twitter and my TikTok because we post content on there every single day. But that's the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this, and we have so much more planned for this. Until next time, guys. See you later.